On a dusty afternoon in the heart of Ouagadougou, life pulsed through the streets like the rhythm of a gem drum. Market stalls overflowed with tomatoes and millet, the scent of grilled suya danced on the breeze, and the honk of aging taxis blended with the chatter of traders negotiating over mangoes. Among this ordinary hum of life, a man in a simple white kaftan stepped off a rusted bus. His sandals were worn. His face was shaded by the hood of his robe. No guards, no convoy, no sirens, only silence and sand followed him. He walked slowly, hands clasped behind his back, stopping occasionally to greet children playing with old tires or to help an old woman gather her fallen oranges. Most passers-by barely noticed him. A few sneered. In a society where appearance often dictated respect, a man so plainly dressed could not command attention. Across the street, at the Grand Savani Hotel, a political conference buzzed with tension and ambition. Delegates from across West Africa gathered in dazzling agbatas and tailored suits. Security men in dark glasses paced the perimeter. Inside, air conditioners hummed and glasses clinked as dignitaries mingled. A young receptionist with bright lipstick checked names against a list with the severity of a border guard. The man in the kaftan walked toward the entrance. He smiled gently and nodded at the guards. "Good afternoon, brothers," he said with warmth. One guard blocked his path. "This is a closed event. You people always try your luck. Step aside." "I'm expected," the man replied calmly, showing no offense. "Expected? By who?" The second guard laughed. "This is not a place for street prophets or beggars. Move before you embarrass yourself." Inside, a wealthy businessman chuckled. "Look, there's always one bushman who thinks wearing white makes him holy. Maybe he's here to bless our food," another joked. Their laughter echoed through the open doors. Then, from the back of the hall, a woman's voice cut through the air. "Wait, is that? No, it can't be." A hush fell. A senator from Mali squinted toward the entrance. His jaw slackened. "That's him. That's President Traoré." Gasps filled the hall. Cameras swung. Chairs scraped the floor. Suddenly, a military officer burst through the side door, out of breath. "Secure the perimeter now. The president is here, alone." The two guards paled, mouths dry. The one who mocked him earlier stepped back, stammering. "And Mr. President, we didn't know." President Ibrahim Traoré raised a hand gently. "Calm yourselves. You did your job. You protected what you believed to be sacred. But let this be a lesson." He stepped into the hall, unbothered by the stunned silence. All eyes followed him, not with pity, but reverence. He walked to the front and turned slowly, his eyes sweeping the room. "In Africa, we often measure a man's worth by the shine of his shoes or the width of his robe," he began, voice steady. "But a lion does not announce itself by the volume of its roar, it is known by its calm walk in the grass." Murmurs of agreement rippled. "Earlier today, I passed through 3 neighborhoods where children dig for food in piles of trash. Yet here, in this place of suits and chandeliers, I was laughed at for wearing a kaftan." He paused. "My people do not need more polished shoes or bigger cars. They need water, dignity, and leaders who will sit on the ground beside them." A young intern in the back wiped a tear. Traoré continued, "An elder once told me, the rain does not choose whose roof to fall on. If we forget the poor today, we invite storms into our own homes tomorrow." The crowd fell into silence. Outside, a boy named Hamadou, who had offered the president a piece of roasted corn earlier that day without knowing who he was, stood in the shadows. Traoré turned his head ever so slightly and caught Hamadou's eye. He smiled. "Some of you laughed," he said, voice growing stern. "But that laugh was not for me, it was for your own pride." A single clap rang from the corner, followed by another. Then the hall erupted in applause. The businessman who mocked him earlier bowed deeply. The guards outside now stood with trembling posture, ashamed. As the president stepped down from the podium, an aide rushed to his side. "Sir, we've just received urgent intel from the northern provinces. There's unrest." Traoré's face changed. Calm, but alert. "Call the commanders," he said quietly. "We leave in 30 minutes." He turned back one last time. "Respect is not worn. It is earned. And leadership is not a crown, it is a burden." The screen fades to black. The motorcade to the north was silent, no sirens, no red carpets, just dust and urgency. President Ibrahim Traoré, still wearing his kaftan, sat in the back of a battered Land Cruiser. Next to him was Hamadou, the young boy from the roadside earlier, who insisted on coming along, to help somehow. They arrived in a dry, cracked village called Tinkaba, where the people hadn't seen rain in months or medicine in years. Rumors of an uprising had spread, but the truth was deeper: hunger, thirst, and the desperation of being forgotten. Women gathered with faded calabashes. Children stared with hollow eyes. A group of young men approached warily, armed with sticks and suspicion. One stepped forward, eyes hard. "We've waited for promises that never came. We don't need more lies." President Traoré stepped out of the car, barefoot on the hot red earth. "No guards. No guns. I did not come to speak," he said softly. "I came to listen." That stunned them. He walked into their circle like a brother, not a ruler. A woman began to weep. "My son died last week. We boiled tree bark just to silence his hunger." Hamadou's little hand gripped the president's robe. Ibrahim knelt. "I have sat in golden rooms, but no room holds more truth than this one made of dust." One of the angry young men, Kassi, lowered his stick. "Why are you really here, President?" Traoré looked at him and said, "Because a leader who hides behind walls cannot heal a nation bleeding in the open." From his kaftan pocket, he pulled a small, folded paper. It was a signed emergency decree. Funds diverted from foreign trips and gala events would now go to building boreholes, clinics, and schools in villages like Tinkaba. "You rejected Trump's invitation, for this?" someone whispered. "I did," Traoré answered. "Because if I must choose between champagne in America and clean water in Burkina Faso, my choice is simple." Silence fell like rainfall. He turned to the villagers. "I am not a magician. I cannot fix this alone. But if you stand with me, if you give me your truth, I'll give you my strength." One by one, they stepped closer. The sticks dropped. The tension broke. That night, under a thatched roof, Ibrahim Traoré ate roasted maize and cassava with the villagers. He laughed with them, listened to them, and wept quietly when no one was looking. Hamadou fell asleep by the fire, his head on the president's lap. As the stars blinked in the vast African sky, Kassi approached again, voice now softer. "President, do you believe we can still rise?" Traoré looked up at the stars. "My brother," he said, "even the baobab began as a tiny seed in the dirt. A people who still cry out in pain are not lost, they are alive." He stood up and faced the firelight. "But the winds of Africa are shifting. And not everyone wants us to rise." A distant explosion thundered across the night. In the hills beyond, silhouettes moved in the shadows, armed, watching. Traoré's face turned hard. "We are not alone tonight." The camera pans out as villagers and soldiers gather around him. The battle between hope and sabotage had just begun. And this time, Africa would not bow quietly. Dear viewers, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, share with your friends, and turn on the post notification bell so you'll be the first to know whenever we upload a new video. Thank you for watching.